Hi, so today we're going to talk about more alternative methods of addition and subtraction. Today, mostly subtraction. So, two sections ago, in section 1.3, we were talking about alternate methods of addition. So, we were talking about how we could take these base 10 blocks and add the base 10 blocks up separately. So add these to these, add the units to the units, the rods to the rods, and the squares or flats to the flats, and maybe do some trading. So here's a written out problem that shows that partial sums method of adding. I'm adding the 300 and the 200 first. And I get 500. Then I'm adding the 40 and the 30, getting 70. And then I'm adding the 5 and the 4. So the question I asked on the homework was, can you subtract using the same method? And it's actually not that hard to subtract using partial sums subtraction if you don't have to borrow. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with, well, what could some other means of subtracting be than our usual borrowing method? To show you that, I'm going to show you negative number subtraction, which I just love. I use it actually when I'm subtracting sometimes, and it's a lot more fun than borrowing. Borrowing, it's a lot of work. This, to me, not so much. So here I've got 621 minus 153, and I do the usual 600 minus 100 is 500, no problem. But then, and you can see it over here a little bit better, I have 20 minus 50. 20 minus 50 is actually a negative number. So I get negative 30. And over here, 500 here, and then negative 30 here. That's from the 20 minus the 50. And now, finally, I do 1 minus 3, that's negative 2. And over here, 1 minus 3, that's negative 2. And you can just do 500 minus 30 minus 2, and you get 468. Let's try a little bit of simpler example and then a harder example again. So here's 52 minus 29. You can write that as 50 plus 2 minus 20 plus 9. And you can subtract the 50 minus the 20 pretty easily. You get 30. And then when you subtract 2 minus 9, now normally you'd say you can't subtract 9 from 2 because 9 is bigger than 2, so you have to borrow. But the reason I'm showing you this is a kid who knows anything about negative numbers is going, wait a second, but you can subtract 9 from 2, can't you? Don't you get a negative number? And the answer is yes, you could do it that way as well. And over here, you can see you could do it in either order. You could do 2 minus 9 is negative 7, and then 50 minus 20 is 30. Or 50 minus 20 is 30, 2 minus 9 is negative 7. Either way, it's 30 minus 7, which is 23. So take a minute to just pause this video and see if you can try it on 63 minus 46. Try it with the negative numbers. And then try it on your calculator or try it with the regular borrowing method to make sure you got it right. Now over here, let's try another one of these types of problems. Right here I have 621 minus 153. I'm going to do 600 minus 100 is 500. 20 minus 50 is negative 30. And then 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So you get 500 minus 30 minus 2 is 468. So again, I'd like you to pause the recording and try it yourself. But this time, after you try it, I'm going to do it out so you can see if the method with the hundreds place, if you got the whole thing right. So give it a try, pause it, and then come back. So did you get a chance to try it out? You can see over here, I'm using my calculator just to check that I got it right. We have 700 minus 100, 600, and then 40 minus 50 is negative 10. So that, and then 3 minus 3, I don't need to do that, it's 0. You can put the 0 in if you want. And so I get 590. Let's just check. 740 3 minus 150, whoops, minus 153, and 590. Yep, we got it. So that's the basic idea. You can try this new method out, see if you get it, and then you can try it on your calculator just to check. Now, this one is a little more complicated because of these zeros. And when I first looked at this, I actually didn't know what to do with the zeros. So I know that I can subtract the 5,000 minus the 4,000 here. But what about this 0? And actually, I tried different ideas out. And then I checked on my calculator to see if that was the right way to do it. So why don't you think about it for a second, pause the video, and think about what you would do before you go to the next page. Okay, I hope you actually did pause the video and find out that we do 0 minus 600 is negative 600. It's just like saying 0 minus 600. It's negative 600. Or 0 minus 6 is negative 6, right? Same idea. And so that's how you do them if you have a 0. And by the way, just really quickly, this also works with fractions. No, you don't have to know anything about fractions right now, but I just thought I'd show you how much easier it is this way. If you have a quarter minus a half, that's negative a quarter. Because let's see, because a half minus a quarter is a quarter. So a quarter minus a half is a negative quarter. And then 2 minus 1 is 1, and then you subtract and you get 3/4. If you like it, there you go. If you hate it, don't worry about it. We're not going to do anything with that. Finally, I just want to show you, just by looking at it, this Mexican front-end subtraction that my mom learned a variation of in Germany. So I think probably different places, different times use this method. And that is, you start with the ones place. So you do 5 minus 2 is 3. And then you start with the tens place. You start with the front end. You start with the first place you see. See, I'm not used to it myself. And you subtract the first place you see. So over here with the hundreds, you would start with the hundreds place. 3 minus 1 is 2. Instead of starting with the ones place. And then when you look over here, you have to do 2 minus 9 and you want to borrow. So you borrow from the answer instead of borrowing from up here. The reason I'm showing you this is because you will have students who have learned this. I want you to know it, at least a little bit, so that if you have a student that knows it, you can help that student out. And that's it for this recording. Have fun playing with the different methods of subtraction.